What's good? It's Jordan. Today, I'll be talking to you about perfectionism and the illusions behind it. See, in this life, we all have the ability to learn and understand that we're not going to be perfect. Once we come into this world, we have to understand that the way we may see the world, the decisions that we may make, the way we decide to live, we may make mistakes within this world that we live, but the ability to get back up, the ability to hold ourselves accountable, the ability to keep going forward and moving on and pushing forth and learning is the ability that we have in this life. See, when we make mistakes, there's lessons and experience that we learn from it that can help us grow, that can help strengthen us, that can help us be people that God wants us to become in this life. In this life, we're going to go through many various challenges and changes, but at the end of the day, those challenges and changes are what forms us into who God wants us to become. I know that in this life, it's hard. We're going to go through many various different things, whether it be in the past, the present, or even the future. But what we can do is learn from these things and constantly. And I believe that when we continue in this world, situations may occur and happen so we can learn. And if we haven't learned, it's going to constantly repeat itself till we learn. I know and understand that when we are interacting with people within this life, social settings and social groups, so to speak, there's going to be things that we can learn from. There's going to be things that we can grow from. There's going to be things that we look at as learning lessons. So when we go into this world, in this life, and deal with other people, because we're going to be dealing with many various different peoples from everywhere. And when we can learn ourselves and learn the lessons behind mistakes that we might have made in the past or in the present, then we can use those mistakes in the future to propel us forward, learning from those mistakes. So, with everything, know yourself, know your life, and know the importance of your life. Because when we know the importance of ourselves and our lives, everything that we go through in this life helps us, guides us, propels us forward. Because we may try to be perfect, but the reality is we can never be perfect. The reality is that we cannot hold ourselves to a standard of perfectionism because it's never going to work. No matter how much we try to be perfect, it's never going to work. We may try to be perfect for other people, it's never going to work. We may try to be perfect for ourselves, it's never going to work. So I believe that it's important to give ourselves grace and it's important to give others grace. I also believe that it's important for us to look within ourselves and look at what we can fix within ourselves and look at what we can change within ourselves and look at the importance of our lives as a whole because there's going to be many different learning curves and abilities for us to grow, for us to change, for us to do the things that we need to do in this life to be in a more positive mind frame, a more positive headspace, so to speak. And in reality, every day that we grow, we can actually use our experiences in the past and present to propel us forward in the future. Something that we learned can help somebody else as well, too, in this life. And it's easier said than done, but I believe that we always have the ability to propel ourselves forward. And throughout this life, whether we're young or far much older, we're always going to make mistakes. Simple as that. We're always going to make mistakes. The best thing that we understand and learn from is when we do make mistakes. At least we hold ourselves accountable. When you're able to hold yourself accountable when you make mistakes, you're able to learn. when you propel yourself from things that you've learned while holding yourself accountable, you start to become the person that God wants you to become. But when you don't hold yourself accountable, when you don't learn, when you don't grow, when you don't want to do these things, then you're never going to grow. You're never going to learn. You're never going to be the person that God wants you to become in this life. And throughout this life, there's always going to be a different challenge when you're on a different level. No matter what it is, there's always going to be a challenge. How you increase yourself, how you strengthen yourself, how you walk when challenge occurs is important. And I know there may be some people in this life and in this world who might have never faced things that other people face. But whether you're young or old, what we have to understand is there's always going to be a challenge. And if you don't receive that challenge when you're young, then you may receive that challenge when you're older. And I'm not putting it out there hoping that people will receive negativity from those challenges, but I want people to understand that on every playing field that we all have the ability to experience and learn in this life and use those experiences to propel us forward throughout the difficult times. And I believe that there's going to be good times ahead for everybody. And I believe that we will overcome our challenges. I am a positive believer that no matter what level you're on, you can be a successful individual and still have challenges mentally, physically, spiritually. Probably not financially, but mentally, physically, and spiritually. And I also believe that even people who are wealthy, they still have challenges within themselves. There's people who make tons of money and monetary gains and resources, and they still have challenges. So we also have to give those people grace as well too, because at the end of the day, we are all human and we all have to work through what we go through. Behind everything, we have to understand that we're human first. The spirit is important. Your heart is important. And we have to understand these things, or we can get caught up into the world and the whirlwinds of what the world has to offer. And sometimes when we get too caught up into the world, we lose focus on what really matters within this life. And we cannot lose focus on what really matters. I believe that at the end of the day, when we come to understanding ourselves, it brings us far much more closer to actually helping ourselves and helping others. Just having the ability to share information, having the ability to be positive, having the ability to show somebody that there's a different way in this life that you can live is important. Just showing somebody that life isn't over because we all need a positive word. We all need some positivity within ourselves and within our life. And we cannot harbor on negativity. We have to release ourselves from negativity. When we release ourselves from negativity, then we can start to see the positive elements and aspects of this life. Because there's more than one perspective in this life. Sometimes some people may only look at it from a negative perspective, but there's also positives in this life throughout everything. There's always a positive perspective that you can look at and see within yourself and within your life and say, this was a good time. That was a good time. I think many times our minds divert to more so negativity because our brains are wired to try to figure out the negative elements and aspects of various different things. But I believe that in this life, if we look through those negative elements, we can also carve and shape positive elements of our life. And I believe that there's always positive elements in this life. There's always ways that we can look at within this life that we can say, hey, That was an important time, and I grew and learned from that. And I believe that the real message here is we can learn from everything in this life, and we must know and understand that we shouldn't give up. We're not going to be perfect. We may not do things the right way that others may want it to be. And at the end of the day, it's fine. Be fine with that and understand that every day that we wake up, it's our ability to learn. And let's not be fearful of anything within this life today. Colossians 3:13. Bearing with one another, and if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other as the Lord has forgiven you, so you also must forgive. I want to thank you for watching today on this journey and on this path and on this mission. And I hope that on this journey today, you know and understand that nobody is perfect. We all make mistakes, and we can learn from these mistakes within this life today. Peace.